The following presentation is intended for U.S. military, intelligence, and law enforcement personnel, investigators, journalists, and activists. It's part of an educational series that describes the central threat to the United States and the Western world. The information in this video must be shared in secret because the threat it describes is all around us, has infiltrated the highest levels of power in all branches of the military, all agencies of the intelligence services, and every town, city, and village in the United States. This presentation will inform military and intelligence personnel more than any briefing that you can receive through official channels, and is more important.
Normies don't know who Victoria Nuland is. Normie doesn't know what a neocon is. Normie has never heard of the State Department, or if they've heard of it, they don't know what it is. So my work is not for normies. My work attempts to reach out to people that are in positions of power, normal or reasonable objectives that could be viewed as fitting for each of these institutions to pursue, but in fact, when viewed with the understanding that I've been talking about now for, well, many, many years, let's say, suddenly become crystal clear for what they are. A process of subversion, of blackmail, of bribery, and the takeover of policies of public institutions. So everyone down in Washington, especially at that State Department, they do what the banking cartels, through the foundations, through the think tanks, tell them to do. And therefore everybody else goes along, because in Washington, D.C., if you say, hey, wait a second, this plan isn't for the United States, this plan is for something else, well, your services will no longer be required in Washington. And that's how it works. But that lowly head of the FBI, Chris Wray, has, although they've given him quite a lot, so he's going to do what they want him to do. Billions more than Avril Haines has down at National Intelligence, and she's a good foot soldier for these just neocon plan to take over everything and use the United States military and the United States Treasury as an engine to push forward. You get a promise while you're in, and you be a good boy or a good girl, and you do what you're told, and then there'll be a big payout waiting for you. Habad Lubavitch. Yeah, well, everybody has to take pictures with Habad Lubavitch. Who doesn't? Every single leader on the planet Earth puts the fucking yarmulke on and goes to the Wailing Wall and puts their hand against the wall. You have to play that game. You have to pretend you like these people. That's what they do in Washington. So these neocons, who are controlled, it's a Jewish supremacist organization, have sworn to trick the U.S. military, or strong-arm them and intimidate everybody else, trick them to using all of the financial might of the U.S. to fight a proxy war in the Ukraine down to the last American dollar. Till the neocons in Washington have sworn to fight till the last American dollar from the U.S. Treasury, from the U.S. workers, has been transferred to the old Jewish banking cartels, who have rebranded themselves as BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, iShares, all this stuff. Arm would be the Janet Yellen, and I guess all the departments in the United States government. But there's this conservative arm, and this would have been Trump and Likud and Netanyahu, and the weapons business is the conservative branch. Because the liberal Jew money decided they're going to kill us through poisons called vaccines. The conservative Jews just want to kill people throughout the world so that they could sell weapons and stuff, and hopefully gain territorial advantage. No such thing as Israeli technology. There's only American technology that Israeli intelligence steals from the United States, or that the U.S. gives it to them, because the Jews and the Jew lickspittles in Congress have made laws that say we have to give everything to them, right? But Israel doesn't develop any military technology. They simply steal it from us. America makes everything, and Israel steals it. That's just a fact. That's the whole point of joint ventures between Israel and the United States. And we see this. We saw this with this guy, name was Brian Kranich. I don't know, Kranich, something like that, the last name. He was the CEO of Intel in the late 90s, I think, or mid to late 90s up until around the mid 20, maybe 15 or something like that, until he got the boot. And he wasn't the CEO for the whole time, but he was a technology development guy or whatever. Anyways, Israel invited him over and got him with some hookers. We don't know how old they were. We suspect that they were underage hookers, right? Probably 15-year-old hookers. And they got it on tape, right? And then he moved the entire manufacturing and security and development of the Intel microprocessors over to Israel. And then Israel promptly, Israeli intelligence promptly, somewhere around 2008, put so many back doors into the Intel microprocessor that there wasn't any room left for the microprocessor. It was just all Israeli back doors, right? And they're there to pursue this underlying goal.
When we think about the State Department definition, which seeks to codify what anti-Semitism is, it's such a flawed definition that it can virtually encompass any particular act without any real regard for context, although it pretends that it does. For example, the State Department definition claims that stating that a particular Jewish person has more loyalty to the State of Israel than they do to their own country is necessarily an example of anti-Semitism. Where the truth is that that's one of the fundamental premises of Zionism. And if you go back and look at the statements, say, of Theodor Herzl, who's wrote really what's considered the founding text of Zionism, he argued very clearly that Jews are one people, and therefore it's useless for them to be patriots to the countries in which they reside. So there's times when a statement like that is contained in the definition of the State Department would actually undermine the founding premises of Zionism itself.
They are called Sayanim, S-A-Y-A-N-I-M. It's all
goddamn fake, man. It's like Lenin said. You look for the person who will benefit, and, I
am the walrus.
You'll, you know what I'm trying to say?
I am the walrus.
Fucking bitch.
Oh, yeah.
I am the walrus.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie. V.I. Lenin. Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov.
What the fuck is he talking about?
Fucking exactly what happened. This whole fucking thing, I did not watch my buddies die face down in the muck